I didn't say a word when the HOA president slid the cease and desist letter across the table. She had this little smirk, the kind people get when they think they've already won. The paper was thick, embossed with the association's seal, and the words "immediate closure of non-residential use" were underlined twice in red ink. I set it down, reached into my leather folder, and pulled out a single laminated sheet. The City of Fairview's Ordinance 14-203. I didn't even look at her when I slid it back across the table. I just watched their attorney's face drain of color as he read the clause. Existing businesses operating prior to zoning changes are hereby grandfathered with full right to continued operation. I hadn't always lived in Fairview. 10 years ago, I was working 60-hour weeks in a manufacturing plant upstate, welding until my back felt like rebar. When the plant closed, I took my savings and moved south to be closer to my daughter and grandkids. The property I found was perfect, an old brick workshop on a quiet corner lot attached to a modest 2-bedroom house. It had been a machinist's shop since the early 60s, and the smell of oil and metal still clung to the beams. I imagined fixing up motorcycles, building custom cabinets, maybe restoring an old car or two. No storefront, no neon signs, just me, a couple of steady clients, and the hum of a lathe in the background. Life was peaceful. I'd wake up early, walk to the corner diner for coffee, and be in the shop before the sun cleared the rooftops. Neighbors would wander in to chat while I sanded down a tabletop or reassembled a gearbox. My granddaughter loved to hand me tools, pretending she was my apprentice. I wasn't trying to expand into some big business. I didn't advertise. I didn't hold events. It was just a place for honest work and honest days, the kind of thing that used to be the backbone of a neighborhood. Then came the letter. At first, I didn't even realize it was from the HOA. A plain envelope in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a 1-page notice of violation, stating that my property was zoned residential and that commercial activity was prohibited without HOA approval. They gave me 14 days to cease all operations. I honestly thought it was a mistake. My workshop had been there long before these folks even thought of forming an association. The machinist who owned it before me had operated openly for decades, and I had all his old permits and tax filings. Still, I figured I'd clear it up with a quick phone call. That call didn't go how I expected. The HOA president, a retired insurance adjuster named Marlene, was polite at first. In that way people are when they're already deciding against you. She said the board had concerns about noise, foot traffic, and safety hazards. I told her my work hours were strictly daytime. I had no walk-in customers. And my shop was quieter than half the lawnmowers on the street. She said rules were rules, and I'd need to shut down or face fines. I laughed. I told her I wasn't under HOA jurisdiction for my business use. The silence on the other end of the line was telling. The fines started arriving a week later. $250 for unauthorized signage. A small plaque above the workshop door with my last name. $500 for operating without HOA consent, and $100 a day for continued violations. Notices were taped to my door, stuffed under my doormat, even handed to my granddaughter when she was playing outside. That one really burned me. I decided I'd try one last time to be civil. I wrote a 3-page letter to the board, attaching scanned copies of the original property deed, old business licenses dating back to 1964, and a signed statement from the previous owner confirming continuous use of the workshop. I cited state law on non-conforming use, explained how my operation didn't impact traffic or safety, and asked for a face-to-face meeting. 2 weeks later, I got their reply. Your documents are irrelevant to HOA policy. You must comply or face legal action. That was the moment I stopped trying to persuade them and started planning to bury them in their own ignorance. I spent the next month reading every line of the Fairview Municipal Code. I dug into county zoning archives, cross-referenced property maps from the 70s, and requested a full history of ordinance amendments. I found what I was looking for in an unassuming PDF from 1987, Ordinance 14-203, Non-conforming uses in residential zones. It was simple and ironclad. Any business operating before a zoning change was legally grandfathered in, with full rights to continue operation indefinitely. No HOA rule could override it. I didn't just print it, I requested a certified copy from the city clerk, complete with embossed seal. But I didn't stop there. I documented every single notice they'd sent me, photographing each one in place before removing it. I recorded phone calls. I saved every email. I even had a retired city inspector, a friend of my late brother, come by to confirm that. My workshop met all fire and safety codes. Piece by piece, I built a file thick enough to choke a filing cabinet. When the board summoned me to their monthly meeting to resolve the matter, I showed up in my cleanest work shirt and sat quietly. At the end of the long table, Marlene started in with her usual script about protecting property values and community standards. She slid the cease-and-desist letter toward me like it was a royal decree. That's when I slid the ordinance across to her. 1. Laminated page, highlighted in yellow, with the city's seal catching the light. The room went quiet, except for the faint hum of the ceiling fan. Their attorney picked it up, scanned the lines, and his expression shifted from confusion to panic. "Where did you get this?" he asked. I told him it was public record, he said. They'd need to review it. Said they had all the time in the world. But in the meantime, every fine, every notice. Every attempt to interfere with my business was going into a file. Marked Exhibit A for the city's code enforcement officer. They adjourned the meeting within 10 minutes. The fallout was quick. The fines disappeared from my account within a week. A month later, Marlene resigned for personal reasons. 2 other board members stepped down not long after. Word must have gotten around because suddenly, neighbors who hadn't looked me in the eye in months were waving again. A couple even brought projects by a chair to fix, a mower blade to sharpen. I took the jobs, no charge now, my days are quieter. The workshop hums just like it used to. No more envelopes taped to my door. No more passive-aggressive reminders about HOA bylaws. When I drive down Main Street, I sometimes catch the new board president watching me from across the road. She nods politely. I nod back. It's amazing how quickly people remember their manners. When they realize you've read more than just the rulebook, you've read the law, and in Fairview, Ordinance 14-203 is the law.